The thing that I've gotten most from reading your blog, you talk about A New Dawn, is that when I read a lot of social media, when I read a lot of Substack, actually, which is getting bigger and more interesting as it grows, I'm struck by the pessimism, by the gloom everywhere. And I feel it myself. And I think that part of it is fueled, obviously, by the images we get from social media and the polarization that we're in, where we're all fucking miserable and we hate our own side, we hate the other side in almost equal measure. And you come along and you give us a whole bunch of reasons to say, let's get out of your social media head and just look at the world, try and be objective here. And you're pretty optimistic about a bunch of stuff. Tech especially, I've gotten used to the idea that tech can also be awful. Like, we've seen social media destroy people's souls, essentially, and destroy our lives in concentration. But in what ways is tech really improving? Of course, I started off with this show by talking about my loss of weight because of Ozempic. That's an amazing thing. I sit here alive because of the extraordinary miracle of protease inhibitors and drug and pharmaceutical advances. So I sit here as a product of these great technological advantages. And here we are on a podcast talking in ways that anybody on earth will be able to hear us. So that's another technological advantage. So keep this theme going, Noah. What else do we have to be grateful for?
I mean, it's purely a matter of perspective. I'm grateful that I have a pet rabbit and he's really cute. And, but I would say that in terms of where we are as a society, in terms of things like economics and technology, we're really better than we've ever been before. I mean, there's so many things, in terms of income. Our income is higher than it was before. Inflation reduced our incomes for about a year and a half, and that sucked. But now it's growing again, right? Because inflation came down, income growth is still powerful. And so we're, and meanwhile, our wealth has gone up. And so economically, we're doing all right in terms of the things that we can do in life. Get around more easily, order amazing food, take great vacations, have awesome gadgets, these things like that. Those are all, great. And we're even starting to see, so the problem with cost was basically education and healthcare and also childcare. Education and childcare, the same thing. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But yeah, so we saw services get more expensive. Now we're seeing college tuition fall. College tuition never rose quite as much as people thought because there was always generous financial aid. We're starting to see headline tuition around the country fall in real terms, inflation adjusted terms, relative to people's incomes. Okay. And we're starting to see that fall. And we are starting to see healthcare prices moderate a lot. We have not managed to push it down yet. Hopefully we will soon. So the crisis of affordability, the main thing we still lack is housing. Housing costs did not go up nearly as much as people think. Actually, incomes went up faster than housing costs over the last 30, 40 years. But the problem is the spatial mismatch. The places where the good jobs were, big cities, San Francisco, college towns, like Ann Arbor, places like this didn't have enough housing. And you can get a super cheap house out in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, but do you want it? And so the mismatch between housing location and housing, price was a big problem because there were all these extremely economically important areas where people needed housing and couldn't get it and still can't get it to this day. Although we're starting to make a little bit of progress toward reversing that, but it's not nearly enough yet. That's what the YIMBY movement is about. So that's something to be optimistic about, is that people are coming together from across the political spectrum to say, build some freaking housing in this country. Just build it. I don't care how you build it. Build all the ways. Like, oh no, we need public housing. Build public housing as well as deregulating private housing. And so this movement around build more housing is really coalescing in America. And I'm very optimistic about that because that's sort of the housing and healthcare are sort of the last great unaffordable things that we're working on correcting. And so economically things are all right.